part of Act 2, Scene 2, where Rosencrantz and Guildenstern attempt to get information from Prince Hamlet. Hamlet treats his old friends with a casual manner that hints at the bro-y, but probably authentic kind of relationship they shared in the past. Rosencrantz and Guildenstern reply that they're not doing too great nor too poorly, and Hamlet turns that into a dirty joke and slut-shames Fortune, personified here as Lady Luck, calling her a prostitute. For the first time, Hamlet asks, number 1, why are you here? Rosencrantz deflects. Hamlet rephrases that there has to be some reason for Fortune to send you in this prison, famously called Denmark. Guildenstern deflects, saying maybe the world's a prison, maybe the prison stems from your ambitions being thwarted in some way. Perhaps, maybe that's why you've been feeling down, hint, hint. Hamlet doesn't take the bait, but turns the conversation back to the purpose of their being there. Very casually, like we do in friendships, really. Why are you here? They lie, and he doesn't believe them. He makes attempts numbers 4, 5, and 6 to get a truthful reply, and when that doesn't work, he tells them he knows that they're there at his parents' behest. But he offers them a chance to speak freely, and it seems even earnestly implores them to recall their past and their friendship, and to respect that by speaking truth. You have to feel like this is the last-ditch effort on Hamlet's part to salvage what remains of his friendship with these two. And Rosencrantz, dear idiot, openly asks Guildenstern, right in front of Hamlet, dude, what should we say? And there ends another relationship and further cements Hamlet's isolation. Hamlet summarizes what the king and queen have told them and delivers his famous "what a piece of work is a man" line, concluding that everything is just, well, depressing and sad. Phony, even, as Holden Caulfield would say. Rosencrantz lets him know that a theater company is on their way to Elsinore and that, remembering Hamlet's love for theater, they have invited it to perform for him. I'm going to save you some time here by having you skip past these crossed out sections of the text, because these mostly serve as an excuse on Shakespeare's part to rail against the fashion of the time, which involved child actors becoming more popular than the traditional grown-up professional actors, and apparently Shakespeare really hated that that's where theater was going back then. For some reason, maybe ego, Hamlet lets Rosencrantz and Guildenstern know that he is mad, but north-northwest. Like, he's pretend crazy. There's not really a good reason for him to let them know this. Maybe he's gambling that they're so foolish that they won't comprehend what's spoken plainly in front of him, but it still seems an unnecessary risk considering the dangerous game he's playing. Polonius starts to return, and Hamlet predicts he's going to tell me that the theater actors have arrived. Polonius does indeed just that, but then we see a flexing of egos between the two as Polonius reveals he's actually got a pretty comprehensive knowledge of all the different types of genres available in theater. Hamlet comes off as kind of jealous here when he counters with this insult with a biblical reference to a dude with a daughter. Again, with the daughter obsession. The actors are now within speaking distance, and Hamlet greets them very warmly, with the kind of teasing and joking you would expect between close friends. He requests that the first player give a speech that he remembered him performing once, and Hamlet then proceeds to recite a whole bunch of it from memory. And considering that Polonius just showed off with his knowledge of the various genres, this recitation comes across very much like a dance-off between the two to see who's the biggest theater nerd. Polonius, depending on how you read him, either offers respect that Ham has won this round, or petty sarcasm here. The first player takes up the speech from there, referencing Priam, the king who is about to die, and narrates his closing moments. But not before slut-shaming Lady Fortune again. Bringing the topic over to Queen Hecuba, wife to the slain king, this key section right here demonstrates her passionate cry of grief, and it can't be a coincidence that Hamlet has requested this particular speech of this particular queen reacting in this appropriate way to her husband's slaying. Polonius even notes that the actor is so into character that he's crying at this moment, and as Hamlet dismisses them, he makes a request to the first player that they perform a certain play and that they include some lines that Hamlet has written specifically for the occasion. We come to the closing soliloquy of Act 2, and Hamlet runs through a huge range of emotions here. First, he acknowledges his solitude and begins berating himself, noting how the player was able to conjure emotion for this fictional queen. The famous lines, "What's Hecuba to him or he to Hecuba, that he should weep for her?" Hamlet notes that if this player had Hamlet's reasons for passion, revenge, emotion, the player would have drowned the stage with tears and just blown away his audiences. On line 593, Hamlet then turns toward himself, calling himself names, asking, kind of rhetorically, kind of not, if he's a coward, uh, concluding or implying anyway that he must be a coward because otherwise he would have made such violent work of Claudius that Claudius's own intestines would have been strewn around the kingdom and fatted all the nearby scavenging birds like vultures or whatever the Danish equivalent is. It's a pretty disgusting image. 2 or 3 lines of extremely passionate cursing of Claudius, followed by more rebuking of himself, as well as how he must, like a whore, unpack himself with words. We have to consider the level of ingrained misogyny that Hamlet demonstrates, likely stemming from his disappointment in his mother, but the way he treats other women, both fictional and in universe, indicates a level of resentment and hatred that really colors his ability to treat people like, say, Ophelia, his ex-girlfriend, fairly. We get his plan for the next act, the play within the play. He's going to force Claudius to observe a reenactment of the murder he committed, and based on that reaction, determine if the ghost's intel was good or not. Notice also Hamlet's acknowledging that the ghost may not actually be acting in good faith, but is some demon that's there to abuse Hamlet. And we close on Shakespeare's familiar signal, the rhyming couplet that signals to the reader that this act has come to an end. These couplets have that pleasing sound of finality to them. The play's the thing, wherein I'll catch the conscience of the king.